I was just saying that. Yeah, so about the recording, we're gonna have video recordings for everything. I'll post it on a YouTube channel and have it posted in the evening. So anybody who isn't here can watch, anybody who wasn't wants to review can watch. If any of you want audio only, like if you're like into, listening to stuff while you're driving, podcast kind of thing, let me know, we can figure that out. But yeah, I was just asking Kelly if she can lead a short kirtan, and then we'll have a little introduction of me, of Bhagavad Gita, of all of you while we're here, and then we'll get into it. Cool. All right. Take it away. I think everybody's experienced kirtan before, yeah? There's nobody who's new to. If there is, please raise your hand now.
Nope.
All right.
I'm going to put you on mute just briefly. I'm going to put you on mute, Shamya. You got it. Okay. So we'll start with the opening prayer, Shamya. Yeah. Take a deep breath in, fill up.
Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva
Wow,
Oh, sorry, I just muted you.
that was fired up. I felt that all the way over here in Canada. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so great being with all of you. Kelly, do you want to just say a couple words maybe?
Yeah, please. So, yeah, I want to, it's funny because people are here and you're here. I will see both of you, but I want to just thank all of you for choosing to explore this ancient text, the Bhagavad Gita, so much more deeply and sincerely, and with someone who's really qualified to guide you through it. So I'm really, really, really excited to welcome Samyaprasa to share with us his knowledge, his wisdom, his intelligence, his humor, and making Bhagavad Gita something that can be accessible to those of us who have not been studying it for a decade, right? So it's an amazing opportunity to have him here, not only because he's my partner and I think he's great, but also because he's a very good teacher. And this is absolutely his service to teach Shastra, to teach yogic texts. So we are very, very lucky. I think we're very lucky to have his association and guidance in this way. And so, Shamya will tell you a little bit more about how he studied the Gita and stuff, but you all know, most of you everyone here has met him, right? So you know that he has a very grounded, present, humble, perhaps more quiet than my approach, some may say, at teaching and showing up and building connections. But I know he's already connected with all of you, otherwise you wouldn't have signed up. So I hope that you get what you receive. And Shamya, thank you for being willing to serve our Sangha in this way. So welcome.
It's so great to be here. I feel so inspired by all the excitement, and I can see the enthusiasm in all your faces. And so my name is Shamya. I'm also known as Sam. Shamya is short for Samyaprasa. It's the spiritual name I got from my spiritual teacher about 10 years ago. When I took initiation, I was given a Sanskrit name, and I go by Shamya. I go by Sam. They're both totally fine. So some of you know me by one name or another. But that's that. And then so I've been reading Bhagavad Gita for about 15 years, and I started really kind of taking it seriously about 12 years ago. I read it every day for the last 12 years, at least some of the Bhagavad Gita. For the middle part of that time, I was a monk, actually, and my services revolved around studying and teaching. But before that and after that, I'm not a monk now. Before that and after that, Bhagavad Gita always played a really big part of my life. I have a lot of respect and love for it. It just fires me up. I get so enthusiastic about it. So it makes me really happy to see people, 5,000 years after the conversation of Bhagavad Gita was spoken, still taking it really seriously. Bhagavad Gita was famous in India for thousands of years. And then in the 1700s, the Germans and English kind of discovered it along with a lot of other treasures in England, but it was a treasure of knowledge. And it was translated to German, to English. It became really popular. It's pretty safe to say it's the most popular book to come out of India, or popular bit of knowledge. And so just a bit about like the class in general. So this is your class, and it's not completely my class. I'm here to facilitate it. I'm here because of all of you. And in my opinion, the best kind of class or experience is one that's really open and involved, and people feel like they can share anything. I started practicing bhakti yoga because I felt like I had a safe space to express doubts. Like I'm kind of like way up here in my head sometimes, so I would ask like really heady questions, and people tolerated that. And I love that kind of space that people feel safe, and I love creating that space. So I would love to have an experience where you all feel like you can raise your hand, your actual hand or your virtual hand, and be like, so I don't understand this, or yeah, like I really appreciate that point, or can you go back a second? I don't really, or whatever, just something that is happening for you. We can have that. We can have like in a more, class, I'm speaking at you, but it's up to you guys. I'm not going to make you do anything. I'm here for all of you, but I want to encourage you to be able to do that, because it's actually totally welcome. And that's the way that Bhagavad Gita was spoken, actually, between Krishna and Arjuna. Arjuna himself has all these doubts, and he speaks them. and Krishna answers them, and it's very personal. It's a very personal exchange. So this is a space for that. I mentioned earlier, yeah, we're recording all the sessions. They'll all be available on YouTube. I made a little channel. I'm going to upload them the evening of every Tuesday, so you can go back and check things out if you weren't here, or if you want to check it out anyway. If you want just the audio, let me know. The best way to be in touch with me or Kelly or any of us is on the WhatsApp group. I think you're all on that. If you're not, Kelly will hook you up. She's kind of my tech gal. She's taking care of all that. Thank you, Kelly. And so, yeah, I'm always available on WhatsApp. I can take WhatsApp calls. You can also email me. I'll make myself available that way. And so for things like tech, also go to Kelly. Yeah, and so I was thinking we could just go around, and we only have like an hour, so we won't take that long, but I would love to hear all of you just introduce yourself. And you can just say one thing, maybe like one reason why you were inspired to take this class, or one thing you're feeling right now that's actually like alive for you in this experience, in this moment. We can start with anybody. Kelly, you can start us off.
Okay, Haribol, my name is Kelly, and I am twofold. I helped organize this class because I want our Sangha. I saw how our Sangha needed to have someone teach the philosophy in a way that they knew it so well, in a way that I don't feel qualified to do yet. So I wanted to bring that to our Sangha and to people that I love here, and also just continue to strengthen my own understanding of the Bhagavad Gita. So that's why I'm here.
Great.
You want to just do everyone here first?
Sure.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Allison.
Allison.
Became a yoga teacher in 2017 and was handed a very abridged version of the Bhagavad Gita, and we didn't even touch on it, and it's been sitting on my nightstand, and I try to pick it up, and it just doesn't have the meaning that I know it has on my own. And I'm just inspired by this group and Kelly and everybody, and I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah. We'll explore the original yoga text. Hi.
Sorry.
I'm Shannon.
Hi, Shannon. Good to see you again.
Hi. Thanks. This book seems very overwhelming to me. And so just starting it was pretty daunting. And so when I saw this opportunity, I was like, that's what I need. I need somebody to hold my hand through this.
Full disclosure, I got a Bhagavad Gita in 2007, and I thought it was really cool, but I was also completely overwhelmed by it. I didn't look at it. I put it in a box for
I
like
read
4 years.
pages, and then I was like, I'm gonna go back to the
Yeah.
one
You're
before.
not alone. You're not alone. The greatest thinkers in the world have appreciated Bhagavad Gita, greatest philosophers, and it's also it takes some support to get into for most people. So yeah, definitely. Thank you.
I'm Robin.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, Robin.
I'm taking this course. I've been reading the Bhagavad Gita, but I'm excited to get a deeper understanding. That's why I'm here.
Great.
Understand it better. Yeah.
Jai.
Hi, I'm Nadia.
Hi, Nadia.
Hi, I've heard of this text through throughout the past few years. Yoga festivals and my meditation teachers talked about it a lot, but I've never done a deep dive. And when I met Kelly at Kirtan a few weeks ago, she said this class was starting, and I was just so excited to be a part of a new community and have a new window into the light. So I'm just happy that it's aligning and happy to be here.
Happy to have you.
Hi, I'm Erin.
Hi, Erin.
I am here because I've done a couple of years of healing work with Kelly and scratched the surface of certain texts, and have definitely felt like I wanted to learn more about some of the spiritual text and the stories. And I've picked it up a couple times and read a few chapters and tried different strategies. And for me, it doesn't stick. And I don't understand a lot of what I'm reading, and I have this deep need to understand.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Amy,
Hi, Amy.
and I'm excited about this class. It's something I've been craving for a little while. I feel butterflies, and just I've read this once through, and I've kind of put it down until the celebration that we're doing this month, and I picked it back up again. And just reading that chapter over and over is very helpful, and I'm for understanding more.
Thanks, Amy. Hey, that's all of us at the Bhakti house. I'll
Great.
want me to pass it to somebody else and then they can pass it to the next person.
Sure.
Samantha.
Haribo. Thanks, Kelly. I'm so happy to be here. I rehearsed a lot more in my head, but that's I can definitely just piggyback on what everybody else has said. I am excited to go through the Gita with someone as knowledgeable as Shamya or Sam, which I also go by. I'm actually applying it to some of my own writing, so I definitely want to go deeper into it. Everybody is talking about lately how Oppenheimer quoted the Gita, and the movie just came out. I'm just fascinated by the effect that it's had on people. I'm happy to be with this group. So thank you.
Thank you.
Will you pass it to somebody, Sam?
Forgot about that. Leanne, take it away.
Haribo. I couldn't be any more happier than the two of you doing this. So that's one of the reasons. And then also after experiencing the Ratha Yatra, and it couldn't have been any more clearer to me that this was like, such a good time to do this for myself. And really, I had the craving of learning more of the Gita. I've been reading it since September, very slowly. So, but just going through it really slow. But yeah, so I'm really excited for that, expanding my knowledge and the understanding.
Thanks,
Thank
Leanne.
you. Thank you. And I'll pass it to Melanie.
Haribol. I'm here because I am like super thrilled to hear the Gita, learn the Gita from a teacher. It's not something I've had experience doing. I've read the Gita, I don't know how many times. I read a lot of it. And so I'm just really excited to hear it from you, Shamya, and hear the wisdom you have behind it so that I can even further immerse myself in it. And so that is why I'm here.
I'm honored.
Yeah. Justin, I'll throw it to you.
Thank you, sister. So my sister threw the words Bhagavad Gita around July of last year, and I started reading it, and basically all the questions I ever wanted to ask God, Arjuna asked God. So it was very impactful right from the start. And it's if my spiritual practice was the solar system, the Gita is the sun. So to be a part of this and see the love grow for this spiritual text in a group is really why I wanted to join this group. So yeah, that's me and my love for the Gita. I'll pass it along to Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda. I have been learning about Bhagavad Gita for a year now. I met Samyaprasa and Kelly in Denver, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity because I find that the best way to study the Bhagavad Gita is with association with other Bhaktins and devotees. So I'm really happy to have association and to deepen my understanding through being able to ask questions and have an interactive experience. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Sorry, I forgot to pass it. Okay, okay, Lauren.
Hi, everyone.
I unmuted. I'm Kelly's mother.
Hi, Rini. Hi, John.
Hi, Sam. And I am here for a few reasons. One, I love to know what my children are doing and believing in and worshiping and loving. And I want to be a part of Kelly's world and deepen my understanding with the Gita. I just finished Depth and Devotion, and the book was given to me, and I did read a little bit, but not much. I couldn't really get through the introduction, as I did tell you, Sam, once, but I kind of shied away from it. So I'm looking forward to working with you, and I just think you're going to help me to understand it better. And I'm looking forward to getting to know you better and see you in your element, which is really cool. This is my husband right behind me, Kelly's dad, who decided to come up and jump in too.
I'm John. I just returned from India on Saturday morning. I've had interests ever since Kelly's been involved. I'm dipping my toe into the Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita.
That's it.
Call it the Gita, right?
Yep. And I would like to get to know Sam better.
I'm so happy you're both here.
Thank you. I will pass it to Tracy.
Thank you, Rini. And nice to meet you, John. So I am relatively new to the whole world of Bhakti Yoga, and I also participated in the Depth and Devotion class, and I only recently obtained the Bhagavad Gita. I'm just going to call it the Gita, John. You and we're in the same boat. I actually read the introduction quite quickly, and I was like, wow, that went by really fast. So I'm really excited to kind of just deepen my understanding and be in a community that I feel safe to ask questions and understand and develop an understanding of all of this spiritual adventure. So thank you for having this.
That's terrific. Thank you.
Who's left? Caitlin. Oh my God. Sorry.
How about now?
Yeah.
Haribo. Okay, great. We love technology over here. Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin. So great to see all of you and meet all of you. For those who I don't already know, I'm here to join the Gita group because August is going to be a period of transition for me. And what better way to have a transition go through with the transition that Arjuna goes through with Krishna. And I think that is such a beautiful example for all of us to learn from and ask questions. And definitely, Shamya, really excited to learn Shastra and share with all of you. Like Amanda said, being association, I think I love community, and so excited to build upon this year.
Thank you. I think that's everyone that we have so far, right? Yeah. There's one person who's going to probably listen to us online, so we're missing you. You're in separation, but we love you, and we'll see you in person whenever you can. Yeah, so Bhagavad Gita. I mean, my relationship with Bhagavad Gita started about 12 years ago. You know, from all of you, I heard different things like you're wanting support, you want to go deeper, you're feeling happiness, you're experiencing excitement right now, you're experiencing curiosity about the text, a desire to learn, desire to grow, wanting to go through your own transformations in life. While hearing about Arjuna's transformation, I heard a lot of people talk about the power of Sangha. Sangha is the Sanskrit word, means the connection or community, and how, you know, reading, hearing, discussing, practicing spiritual life in Sangha is more powerful. Also want to get to know me better. So these are all things that I heard, and I relate to all that. In some way, shape, or form, I experienced all that when I was coming to Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is for some people a religious text, but for many people, it's an inspirational text, a handbook for life. It's not really based on a belief system so much, because notably for spiritual texts, Bhagavad Gita actually has to do with sharing wisdom and giving space to practice that wisdom. So in Bhagavad Gita, you won't find a whole lot of you should do this, you shouldn't do that. There's, yeah, if you do this, this is what happens. And if you do that, this other stuff happens. And here's how things work. And do you have any questions? And then there's some questions and there's responses. So I found that refreshing myself. I was actually, I was born in a country where I was born in Iran, and Iran became, in my opinion, kind of politically pretty messed up because of weird, ideas of religion. And I left that country when I was really young. So it was actually pretty far out for me to become a very spiritual person. But it happened through Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is so welcoming and it's so non-sectarian. So I view Bhagavad Gita, and always have, as a very powerful non-sectarian book. Emerson and Thoreau and Gandhi and Martin Luther King and others have appreciated. Someone mentioned Oppenheimer. He was in the Manhattan Project and he developed the A-bomb. And when he saw the effects of it at the test, he quoted chapter 10, Krishna says, Mrityu sarvaharas chaham. I am like death, the destroyer of worlds. Krishna's expressing his different sides of his personality. Oppenheimer saw the face of death in the atomic bomb. So people have seen different things in the Bhagavad Gita. And so it's actually a very deep text. And it's very non-sectarian. I consider it a highly practical text. And I like to present Bhagavad Gita practically, because especially in this age, people, although we're curious about knowledge, we want to know especially what it can do for us, how it relates to our lives. Because we're busy, because we have different situations in our lives, and you can only get so far presenting knowledge that is like armchair philosophy. And that's not what Bhagavad Gita is. Bhagavad Gita is actually deeply practical. So the basic idea of Bhagavad Gita is that life has problems. Life is perplexing. No matter what happens, no matter how much you try to control it, there are always going to be things about life that we can't control, that are always going to create challenges that are beyond our control. As Albert Einstein, I'm paraphrasing him, he put it, you can't solve a problem on the same level that you created it, right? And the attempt to do that, I'll add, just creates more problems. So he's advocating, Einstein is, for going higher. And that's what Bhagavad Gita is about. It's about transcending your situation, not avoiding it, not avoiding looking at the problems in your situation or throwing your hands up and giving up, but transcending it while being in that, not being defined by it, and changing your consciousness. So it's a handbook for doing that, for transcending the situation that Arjuna has, and for all of us. So a little bit about Bhagavad Gita. We have like 12 weeks, and it's 18 chapters. So I'm just going to name that. It's a good news, bad news thing. The bad news and the good news is the same thing, is that you're never going to be done. You're never going to be complete with Bhagavad Gita. I've been reading Bhagavad Gita for 12 years. For about 7 of those years, more, but 11 of those years, I read a chapter of it every day, consistently. And I've never found even the beginning of an ending to it. It's just so deep. So what to speak of, we have 12 weeks and an hour at a time. We're never going to may not even get to all 18 chapters. I'm personally okay with that. If we don't, I'll start another container and you can all be in it and we can go some more. If you really want to get all the way through it, we can do that too. But I'm of the opinion that going through it in quality and answering doubts and questions, we can do justice to the Bhagavad Gita, no matter how far we get, and no matter how many verses we do or don't actually read together. But it's a very deep text. It's about 700 verses. So if you read like 2 verses a day, you'd get through it in a year. If you speak the Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit, it takes you about an hour and a half. If you do it in English, it takes about 2 hours. English is a little bit slower of a language than Sanskrit. So it's a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, as many people know. And Arjuna, I'm going to give a little background. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's a little short chapter before the introduction called Setting the Scene. It talks about the context, what we're getting into, what happens, or what has happened before all of what we're about to hear. So Arjuna, He's the protagonist. Arjuna is extremely powerful, extremely competent. He's the most qualified, powerful warrior in the world. He's very, very pious, very upstanding, real gentleman. He's a husband. He's a father. He's a brother. He has several brothers who are all very much like him. They're called the Pandavas, sons of Pandu. And the first chapter has a lot of names. I tend to try to not get lost so much in the names. So I'm going to summarize the context of the first chapter, which really is Bhagavad Gita's attempt to put everybody in Arjuna's shoes without getting too much in the names. If you want to know more, we can do that offline, or you can ask questions now. That's also okay. But Bhagavad Gita actually exists in a greater text called the Mahabharata, which is 100,000 verses long, if I'm not mistaken. It's quite long. And Bhagavad Gita is the essence of the Mahabharata. And in that Mahabharata, it's like a soap opera. It's a big drama. And by the time Bhagavad Gita comes around, Arjuna, who his family and his older brother in particular are the rightful heirs of the kingdom and very righteous, they would be very protective of the people and do their duty. They've had their kingdom usurped. Arjuna has been physically assaulted and abused. His wife was assaulted in public. They tried to disrobe her. The would-be usurpers of the throne. They tried to publicly disrobe her and dishonor her. So many awful things. They tried to kill his entire family. But the really heartbreaking thing for him is this is happening to him from other members of his family that he grew up with. So there's this really awful family rift. And Arjuna is thrust in the middle of that, and he's embraced his duty. He actually has to go to war. At the time that we enter Bhagavad Gita, it's war. And on one side, there's a gigantic army led by the Kauravas, the rivals of the Pandus, headed by the son of one gentleman who was born blind. He actually has a very materialistic worldview. We'll hear from him in the first verse. And in the first verse, he says, Mamakav Pandavas Chaiva Kima Kurvata Sanjaya. He speaks to his advisor, Sanjaya. And Sanjaya has this ability to actually, he's almost like a human satellite. He can actually see what's happening in the battlefield from a distance. He's in the palace with the king. This king, this very materialistic king, Duryodhana, is saying, what happened between my sons and the sons of Pandu, the sons of my brother, my nephews? Immediately, Bhagavad Gita starts with this duality. There's me, and there's my people, and there's everybody else, us and them. That's the mentality that Arjuna is suffering underneath. That's why there's so much injustice in his situation. There's been so much abuse, because rather than his cousins and him cooperating, somebody wants power. Somebody wants their sons to be in power. So this person who is born blind is also spiritually blind. Duryodhana is spiritually blind, and he's saying, what is happening in the war between my sons and the sons of Pandu? And the first chapter begins with that question, and Sanjay describes. So, on the other side of the battlefield, from this gigantic army, is a smaller army, with Arjuna at the head of it. And Arjuna asks Krishna, who's his charioteer and his best friend, to pull the chariot between the two armies so we can see what's happening here. Who am I fighting with? Who am I fighting against? Let's get ready. And this is something he's done many times. Arjuna is the most competent person in the world at his job, at the service of being a warrior. He's a very upstanding person, as I mentioned. He knows that I don't like this, but right is right. I actually have to go to war. And the thing that actually levels the playing fields and more is that Arjuna's friend Krishna is not just some guy. Krishna is actually the personality of Godhead. He's actually God. And Bhagavad Gita is actually a conversation between God and his devotee. And it's about Arjuna's suffering and Arjuna's dilemma, but it's also about all of us. Because as I mentioned, the fundamental perspective of Bhagavad Gita is that life has problems. It's not just Arjuna. And that's why it is in the shape it is, because we see Arjuna going to war with his own family. And we can't imagine anything more drastic than that. Actually having to kill the people who taught you and raised you. I mean, his grandfather's on the other side. People who were teachers to him, cousins. He has to make orphans out of people. He has to make widows out of people. It's ghastly. I'm pretty sure nobody here is going to have to do anything quite that intense. But show of hands, I'll start with myself. I'll be vulnerable. Anybody ever been in a situation in life where you're like, I don't know what to do? I'm just like, I'm at my wit's end. I can't figure this out. I have a problem. Okay, I feel better. It's not just me. We all have problems, right? That's a universal situation. So Arjuna has a gigantic problem. We also have problems. The perspective of Bhagavad Gita is the world has problems. So by stepping into Arjuna's shoes, we get to face pretty much the most intense version of that through him and see his reaction, including his breakdown, actually. So I'm kind of just summarizing the first chapter as the chapter goes on, and I'll just pull it up for you here. A little bit about this text. So I'll share my screen. Share screen. Yeah. Can you all see that? Yeah, cool. So this is a very handy website, Vedabase. Veda means knowledge in Sanskrit. The Vedas are like the collection of all knowledge. So this cute little term, Vedabase.io, or if you go vedabase.com, it'll take you to the same place, Vedabase.com. So you go down to the Bhagavad Gita, and I encourage all of you to take advantage of this resource. So looking at the first chapter here. By the way, I'm like, as I said, this is your class. I'm here to facilitate you. It's up to you guys how much, homework or whatever you want. I'm not so much into that. I can just talk about Bhagavad Gita, but I do recommend certain things. I do recommend, like, for example, in the next week, reading the translations to the verses for chapters 1 through 2.7, chapter 2, verse 7. I'll repeat that later. The reason for that is because there's actually like a significant thing that happens in that verse. The tone changes. You'll see it. But if you see here, all the translations are there. If you click on any verse, here's that first verse, Dhritarashtra, the blind king. There's the Devanagari, the Sanskrit language, what it looks like. This is what it sounds like. Dhritarashtra uvacha. Dharma kshetre kuru kshetre samaveta mamaka pandava shaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. And if anybody's into pronunciation or Sanskrit or all that stuff, we can get into that offline or anything. I personally am a big word nerd. I love Sanskrit. I love languages. I learned Sanskrit actually by studying Bhagavad Gita. Anybody wants to learn Sanskrit, my advice is read a chapter of Bhagavad Gita every day and learn from the word for word. You learn the word Dharma, which is actually a word in English too, Dharma. There was that old TV show, Dharma and Greg, about like a very straight-laced guy and like his very hippie girlfriend or whatever, who are roommates. Dharma is a word in Sanskrit. And so you'll see what each word means, and then there's a translation and a purport or discussion from Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. So yeah, I recommend taking a look at the translations, at least, for the first chapter. That's 40 verses, I think, 46. And then the first 7 of chapter 2. So that'll take you like 15 minutes. There's a lot of names. Don't let it throw you off. I'm going to summarize it for you. So Sanjay said, okay, the armies are in military formation, and Duryodhana, who's the son of Dhritarashtra, he's with the bad guys. He speaks to his general, and they look at the battlefield, and on the other side, they're ready to fight. On the other side, Krishna and Arjuna, they're seated on their chariot. Arjuna is actually behind Krishna. Krishna is the charioteer, manning the reins. They blow their conch shells. There's an introduction. And Arjuna says, please draw my chariot between the two armies so I can see who's here to fight. What do I have to deal with? Now, Krishna does that. And then this is verse here, verse 26. There, Arjuna could see within the midst of the armies of both parties, his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his fathers-in-law and well-wishers, right? And then it hits him. It hits him what he has to do. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. My dear Krishna, see my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit. I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up. So actually, what we're going to witness here is Arjuna actually having a nervous breakdown. He really has a big problem with what he has to do, understandably. It's something he's done before. He's gone to war. It's not exactly scary for him. He's, as I said, you can think of him as the manliest man, the most powerful warrior, the best at what he does, but he's never had to do this. He's never had to see a situation where if he wins, so many people he would celebrate with are dead. And if he loses, then the kingdom is taken over and many innocent people are going to be suffering at the hands of usurpers. So he has actually like a breakdown. His mind reels, his hair stands on end, his skin starts to burn. He drops his weapon, which a warrior would never do. You know, he basically passes out. He's sweating, he starts crying. And so I don't know if any of you can relate to this, having a situation that you think you're in control, you think you know what's going on, and all of a sudden you see something, you hear something, you get some news, and everything changes in that moment, right? Can anybody relate to that? Anybody want to share anything? You don't have to get too, personal with what happened, but just some incident of all of a sudden things change and your sense of control over a situation really slips. Yeah.
You want me to share? I can share.
Sure. Yeah, just share. Go ahead.
So some of you know this, but so I grew up as an alpine ski racer, a very competitive alpine ski racer. And my freshman year in college, I broke my femur in my first college race. And I identified completely at that point in my life as I am a ski racer. And then I couldn't ski race. And it was the first time I started thinking about, well, like, if that's not, but I still exist, I'm still here. So who am I? And I started asking, and what am I going to do? And like, I don't know what else to do. I never even thought about what I was going to study in college. I went here so I could ski Division I. And, I remember my dad coming into I was like, crippled in the bed watching like Prison Break. I remember that. And binge watching Prison Break. And he came in and he said, one day you're going to look back at this and know that you aren't where you are now if this didn't happen. And so in that kind of moment, it was like my dad was my little Krishna there giving me some advice. And that was like a battlefield of like my whole life as I knew it blew up then. And I couldn't see the way through. And I was crying all the time. And all my friends were skiers. I couldn't be there and blah, 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 blah. So that was like, I think the first time I really experienced like loss in that way. So.
Yeah, loss of identity, loss of purpose, loss of direction. What do I do next? And your dad's saying that's spoken by somebody who's been through something himself. Obviously, he had some perspective he didn't have. It's a value of our elders. So that's there. And Krishna is the supreme elder, actually. So Arjuna, he's freaking out. But this is relevant for us because although we're never going to be in that situation exactly, there are these teachable moments in life. There are these moments when there is this intrusion of chaos from the world. There's something we didn't expect and couldn't control. You break your leg, health problem, emotional thing, some family thing, money thing, political situation changes, and these things are always coming and going. You can't say they're not going to happen. They're always happening, right? So at some point something happens and there's like this readiness to receive wisdom. In fact, I would say if I were a gambling man, which I'm not, but I'm sure I would gamble any amount of money. Every person who's here taking this course is here in their spiritual life, in the place of inquiry, in a place of curiosity, partly motivated by realizing that you have questions you don't have answered about life. There was some sense of like, there's got to be something more. Who am I? These deeper questions that perplexed. What am I doing here? Why is the world the way it is? Why am I the way I am? What actually am I made of? What's the point? These things that we can't just figure out on our own. And the suffering that comes from those questions, from that not knowing, that's what's relatable to us. Because Arjuna gets thrust into all that. He actually starts to question his identity. What am I even doing here? Is it even right to do what I'm doing? Better, he says, better if I just actually leave the battlefield. What's the use of a kingdom, of happiness, even of my own life, if all those people who I'm desiring those things for are here in the battlefield with me? If I have to fight my own family, I don't even care if they're in the wrong. This is just crazy. I would never do this. So better I leave. Better I just go to the forest, live like a mendicant, means like live like a beggar, live somewhere with nothing, and give up my duty. I don't even know what's right for me to do here. So he has all these questions. And the Sanskrit term for this chapter is Vishada Yoga, the yoga of despair. It says Arjuna's going through that situation of like having a dark night of the soul, having his world crash around him, and how that opens him up for higher wisdom. Because if we actually think we have all the answers, if we actually think we're okay, fundamentally okay, like not just, okay, but like I got a full bank account, I got a full tank of gas, I'm copping a lien on the car, I got a full stomach, I am all set. If that's the attitude we have in life, we've all had that sometimes. There's no room in that cup for anything else to come in. It takes that cup being empty, it takes some chaos to be like, wait a minute. Okay, I'm ready for something more. I'm ready for a little bit of wisdom. What is this? What's happening here? So we're witnessing that happen with Arjuna. So he questions his purpose. He says, "O Krishna, although these men, their hearts overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's own family or quarreling with their friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sin?" You see, for somebody who's actually upstanding, who's actually moral and pious, the world is even more difficult. It's easier getting by in the chaos of the world if you're like, yeah, crazy things happen and might makes right. If I can take something that I want from someone else, good for me. And I just got to protect what I have from other people. If one is like a little bit morally shady like that, it's a little bit easier to get along in the world, and there's less difficult questions to ask. There's less of this lamentation or suffering or despair or depression. The more introspective somebody is, the more they have a moral code, the more they want to know what's the right thing to do here, the harder life is, You look at like, even in the kind of not so spiritual world, just the regular world, look at like thoughtful people like comics, comedians. The more thoughtful they are, the better they are at finding the absurdity of life. Often the more unhappy they are in their personal lives. Someone like Robin Williams comes to mind, right? Deeply sensitive soul, deeply aware of the suffering of the world. Incredibly funny because of it, because he could bring out the absurdity of things, but so much suffering internally. So in life, when we care so much, that's where the suffering comes from. Arjuna cares so much. If he was indifferent, yeah, whatever, I don't like him anyway, then it wouldn't be the text it is. It wouldn't be relatable. He has such a big heart. He cares about the widows that are going to come out of this, the orphans that are going to come out of this, not just his own inconvenience in having to do this thing, but the greater picture. He's devastated by that. The children, the grandchildren, generations to come. What's going to happen? Who's going to protect the women? Like that. And so he breaks down. Verse 45, better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, the sons of my uncle, weapons in hand, were to kill me unarmed and unresisting. Sanjaya said, having spoken thus on the battlefield, Arjuna cast aside his bow and arrows, sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief. So that's the scene. That's what we enter into. And so far, there haven't really been any spiritual instructions yet. We just have the everyman situation, every person situation. Arjuna showing like, I thought I had life under control. I thought I knew what I'm supposed to do. And all of a sudden, like my basic duty, I'm doubting. My basic purpose, I'm doubting. And all of a sudden, I don't know. So the second chapter starts like that too. Krishna starts speaking. Krishna starts criticizing him gently, like, what are you doing? This is your duty. But Krishna says, it'd be better, Arjuna says, hold on, it'd be better to live by begging, verse 5. Better live by begging than to have to fight people who are my teachers. If I have to fight my own teachers, then everything will be tainted with blood. And I don't know what would be better, to win or to lose. So he comes to this point in the 7th verse, which is kind of a natural break point. So I recommend, reading the first chapter and up to the 7th verse of the 2nd chapter. He says, okay, so now I'm confused about my duty. I don't know what's best to do. I've lost all my composure. He actually recognizes that I actually don't know what to do. Before that, he was saying, yeah, better I just leave. Like, better I don't do this. And then he has this moment of humility where he's like, actually, I don't know. And that's the moment of wisdom, when we realize that we know that we don't know, right? It's this thing of, if you don't know that you don't know, Like I can pick up a violin and I can think I'm playing a really great violin. I actually have no idea how to play the violin. If I play the violin for you all, I might think I'm doing a great job, but you would all suffer tremendously because I would not know that I don't know how to play violin. And then one day someone might take me aside and be like, hey buddy, you know, about that violin thing, actually, this is what it sounds like when someone plays a violin well. And I'd be like, oh man, I just realized I don't know what I'm doing. And that's the beginning of becoming a good violinist. Because if you think you know how to play that thing, what do you have to learn from anyone else? You know, there's no point. I'm perfect. And Arjuna has the exact opposite of that. He actually has a complete breakdown. He realizes everything I used to be great at, I don't even know if I should do right now. And then he says, in this condition, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I'm your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Speaking to Krishna, please instruct me. So in other words, before that, he was talking like a friend. Yeah, with your buddies, you can be like, yeah, I think I should do this. You think I could do that, whatever. But he doesn't, he's like, no more equal. I don't want to deal with this as if you're my equal. I'm surrendering. Help me out. What do you think? You know, what is your perspective? And it took the suffering of the situation. It took the question mark of the situation for him to come to that. So that's the beginning of the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. Notably, Krishna is not like telling him what to do. He's waiting for him to have his own teachable moment and ask for help. And then Krishna's like, okay, let's talk. So that's important because that's the nature of the Supreme. He's responsive. The nature of our relationship with the Supreme is that it's responsive, is that we always have the opportunity to ask questions and the opportunity to recognize I need help. So if anybody's ever experienced like, I need help in this, you know, that's what Arjuna is going through. And because of that readiness to hear, like, what do I even do? What does this mean? What is life all about? Krishna delivers everything. So it's been almost an hour. I want to kind of just pause here. I love reflections. I love comments and questions. So anything that stood out from what I said, any comment or reflection means anything that you heard that you'll take away. If someone asks you, hey, what's that guy talking about in that Bhagavad Gita class you're taking? You can be like, this is the one thing I remember. Any reflection or a question, questions are good, doubts. Let's hear at least 3. That's my request.
We have one here. Can we unshare your screen so we can see you big again?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Want to come over here?
Sure. So you just said something about not knowing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And relate this to being a parent. We think we know what we're doing, raising kids, but we have no clue. No clue how we are affecting our kids, even in the smallest way, thinking that we're doing something right when it may not be the right thing.
Yeah, I remember when I was a teenager thinking, why are my parents so clueless? Why do I know so much more than them? And I don't have any kids of my own, but so many years later, being like, oh my God, life is way more complicated than I thought it was. Like they did the best they could. I can't even imagine, you know? So yeah, just realizing the enormity that when you have children, that's a universal experience of a thoughtful parent. Thoughtful parents always have this experience. Oh my God, what do I do? What if I ruin them? How do I deal with this? Like, how do I handle this situation? Definitely.
And Amy's son just got married this weekend, so I feel like maybe that's.
Yeah.
We have a comment in the chat.
Cool. And Caitlin, she really related to the thought, the unknown causes suffering. Yeah. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit? What does that mean to you? And what do you think of when you hear the unknown causes suffering?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Because I can't hear you anymore, but that's okay. We'll work through that. I think it's one of the things that I have seen in my life and constantly am being reflected back to is that there is so much unknown, and living in that, trying to decipher what can then become known. It takes me personally away from like the moment that I'm in right now. And so I'm causing myself my own suffering when I focus on what I don't know. And so to have Arjuna also relate that back of like, you know, trying to give himself all the answers that he wants to, like I've definitely had the thought before, like I would just love to go run off into the woods into the mountains in my own cave, but that's not that's not what's meant to be. So yeah, so just seeing that reflected in here and having that again is just a very good message to reiterate.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciated myself over the years. Just the value of the first chapter and the first few verses of the second chapter is the message of like really giving ourselves permission to sit with the questions, the uncomfortable questions. You know, why is this the way it is? What do I have to learn from this situation? You know, so Arjuna, he starts with like, why is this happening to me? And he gets to, why is this happening for me? You know, Krishna helps him see that. But it takes like that really painful teachable moment of, oh yeah, I don't know. I actually don't have the answer to this. And so it really encouraged me over the years in my just passage of life to sit with the uncomfortable questions, to get out of my comfort zone and give myself permission to be sitting with the, you know, if someone challenged me on something or whatever happens in life, you know, if I have some unknown, if I'm misunderstood, if there's to take some life step I don't have answers for, I have a loss, you know, my mother passed away 1.5 years ago, like, and whatever happens, you know, just allowing myself to sit in that uncomfortable question in the unknown, because Arjuna did it and it worked out because he took it to the Supreme. He didn't try to figure it out himself. He didn't try to avoid it. He didn't try to dull the senses and dull the pain. He sat with it, he felt it, and he took it to God. He actually took it to the Supreme. He took it into his heart and he received what to do in that. And that's very much what we're called to do, all of us too. Thank you. So that's kind of a little bit of what I heard in your comments. Okay, one more. I want to get at least one more. This is my favorite part of every class I give, is just hearing back the reflections. It's my selfish, it's the price I ask for whatever I do. This is my payoff, actually.
We have a question here.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a home with no sort of spiritual or religious foundation. And I'm 52. And part of this whole journey for me has been trying to find that. And you mentioned, and I'm thinking about this chapter where, you know, Arjuna had Krishna right there, right? Like next to him. And a big thing for me is, where is he for me? And I have this opportunity to ask questions of Krishna, but like, how do I hear him talking back to me?
Yeah, that's an outstanding question. It's one of the all-time practical questions. Like, where do I find God, and how do I understand the difference between like my own mind and actually like receiving wisdom from above? So there's a few different ways of looking at it. Bhagavad Gita is going to talk about that. So part of it, the answer I'll defer to as we explore Bhagavad Gita. But in summary, I'll say, you're not meant to put your intelligence on hold and throw it away. It's God-given. We have intelligence for a reason. We're meant to use it. We're meant to cultivate your intelligence. So that's one thing. It's like the old story. Like there's a joke, right? Like somebody's like in their house, and this is very topical because there's just a big flood in southern Vermont. And the big flood comes, and they're sitting back, and they're like, "Yeah, that's okay. God will take care of me." And the neighbor comes and like knocks on their door. "Come on, I'll take you in my boat." "No, I'm good. God's gonna take care of me." Then helicopter comes and throws down a rope. They're like, "No, I'm fine. God's gonna take care of me." And then lo and behold, all these things come, all these things go, and they drown. And they go to the afterlife in this joke, and they're like, "Hey, you know, big guy, what happened? You know, you're supposed to take care of me." It's like, did you not see the helicopter? Did you not see the boat? You didn't use your intelligence. I gave that to you for a reason, you know? Don't be passive. You gotta try to figure out your situation. You gotta try to do your duty. So we're not meant to just kind of like, oh, whatever, you know, we're not hippies. It's not just that we do nothing. That's one thing. On the other hand, there is this difference between trying to figure it out and trying to be being ready to receive. And on myself, in my heart, I can feel the difference between when I'm like, you know, up in my head and trying to figure out a situation versus like humble, ready to be corrected, ready to be wrong, ready to have my eyes turned towards a truth I didn't consider before, receiving. So that's part of internally what you can express feel as a difference. Another thing is that Bhagavad Gita shares a culture of bhakti yoga, the culture of how to actually practice devotion. So getting together with other devotionally minded persons, spiritually minded persons, is a tremendous and practical way to actually address that question, because there's wisdom in that, and opening your heart, especially with persons who are like-minded, who will keep your confidence, like they'll keep anything you say sacred. They won't just blab it to anybody. Being able to reveal your heart and your doubts and your concerns and your questions, and receiving that from someone else is actually a form of love. According to the Bhakti text, it's there in the Upadeshamrita. One of the followers of Lord Chaitanya wrote a book called The Nectar of Instruction, called Upadeshamrita. And in it, he talks about how to share love, what love looks like. And two of the ways are opening your heart and revealing it in confidence. And the other one is receiving it. So doing that with like-minded persons who are also spiritually oriented is a really practical thing. And another thing is to purify one's mind and body and mind through a pure lifestyle as much as possible. Because what you put in, it's like they say in computer programming, garbage in, garbage out. If your program is, if your computer language is wrong, then whatever you do in the language, the program is going to come out wrong too. You got to eat well, you got to get enough sleep, you got to take care of your emotional life, have a healthy amount of recreation, healthy relationships, have healthy spirituality, live in what's called the mode of goodness. And the differences between the different modalities of life, the elevating modality, the passionate modality, and the degrading modality, are given in Bhagavad Gita too. And to the extent that we're living a purified life in the higher modalities, we'll have more up here, we'll have more clarity in here, we'll have less anxiety, less depression, less spinning our wheels. So that's also helpful. So that's kind of a summary. Each one of those points you can expand on practically infinitely, but I hope that kind of opens the door to your answer. Great.
She's say that again.
I might need like a little Cliff Note summary because I was really just trying to listen, but
I wrote it down.
Okay.
Yeah, Kelly's like one of the best note takers around, so she'll help you. And also just feel free to check in on that on WhatsApp with me as we read Bhagavad Gita. You know, is your question getting like a deeper and deeper answer? I think it will, because the points I talked about of purifying our heart and mind, and also internally knowing the difference between being in our head and our heart, and also being in Sangha. Those things are expanded on all of them in Bhagavad Gita. And also Krishna gets into how to tap into the presence of the divine in the heart and how he's there. But the good news too is that all of you are already doing that. You're already seeking wisdom by coming here to read Bhagavad Gita. That's actually a devotional activity. That's actually a spiritual activity itself. You want to hear, the desire to hear spiritual knowledge, the desire to ask questions about it. That's a spiritual activity, and it's purifying. And it puts you in touch with your heart and with the presence of the divine in there. It really facilitates that. So doing that regularly is a great choice. So kudos to all of you for choosing to do that every week here, at least, if not more, with your own practice. So it will help. Was that a hand from Rini?
Oh,
You're muted.
you might have to unmute her.
Oh, I can do that?
It's spirit fingers. Oh, wait.
Okay.
Oh.
No, now you're muted again. Now you're unmuted.
Spirit fingers. That means that's all good. Like
Okay, cool.
That's from Depth and Devotion. That's from my group. I'm like, if you're with me, give me spirit fingers.
The original jazz hands.
Yes.
Okay, I love it. Cool. Wow, it's already been just a little more than an hour. Any kind of comments? Anything else that you want to add? I have no problem going over comments, questions, reflections.
I just want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Because I have to duck out, but that was an awesome first class. I'm definitely gonna have to re-listen. There are a lot of good points. You're a great speaker. I can't wait to do this 11 more times at least.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say my goal is to transparently share whatever wisdom I've received from my teachers. So thank you. I'm glad that you got something from it. And your name is going to be really easy to remember because Sam. Great. Anyone else? Oh, Kelly said something funny. What did you say?
No, we were just all laughing because we heard my mom laugh because she popped up on her screen in a cute little. And we
Oh,
were
I forgot I unmuted.
we were
Right.
loving it. We were loving it. Sorry. Any other questions or
Yeah,
comments?
any other questions, comments? Awesome. Okay. So we'll call it a day. I think you all have the WhatsApp thread. You can log in there, you can ask any questions. If you want to follow along, which I recommend, read the first chapter verses, translations, and the first 7 verses of the second chapter. I also recommend at some point, maybe not now, but whenever you can, read the introduction. It's 40 pages long, but it's a summary of the entire philosophy. It might actually be easier to read it after the whole Bhagavad Gita, but do yourself a favor and do that at some point, because of all the things that Prabhupada's written, it's probably the most concise, complete representation of our entire philosophy and the philosophy of bhakti. You might find it a little bit slow going. Give yourself permission to be slow. That's okay. It's deep. And I'm available offline for any questions and reflections. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
You can go.
Hare Krishna.
See you
Thank
next
you,
week.
everybody.
We'll pick up with chapter 2, text 8.
Haribol.